Well, all right, it is Friday. Time for the end of the week wrap up. So kind of worked this week by myself. Junior's out this week. Should be back on Monday. But started with Bob's here. I got the fender and the quarter roughed out, some of the body work, and same on the other side. So I've been attacking that. That's been my escape when things don't go right on other cars. I come up here and work on Bob's. But so working on the Barracuda, and I came into a little bit of a problem, and I'm going to try and explain it to you guys and for the customer as well. So we're trying to get the torque converter and transmission and everything put together, and this is the flex plate that goes onto the end of the crank. Okay, so now you can see on this flex plate there is a lip right here. So that side goes towards the torque converter, does not go towards the crank. So you can see the impression on the back side. So we just bolted on to the crank in that fashion. So when you hold the torque converter up to the back side of the flex plate, the problem I was having was the bolts. Here's the bolt. How thick that head is, that was rubbing on the torque converter. So I managed to find another torque converter bolt, or flex plate bolt, that was half of that shank, that top. So I got those put in, and after putting the torque converter up there, we no longer had an issue with them rubbing. But the knob on the back of the torque converter actually bottoms out inside the crankshaft before the tabs on the flex plate touch the torque converter. So I went ahead and put the torque converter on and set it up inside there. And as you can see, there is about 3/8 of an inch gap between the flex plate and the torque converter. Now that becomes an issue because the torque converter is only supposed to slide out of the transmission 1/8 of an inch, 3/16 max, and I've got 3/8 of an inch there. So I believe we have the wrong flex plate. Now the owner of the car had assured me that this is the torque converter and the transmission from this car, so we've kind of narrowed it down to a flex plate issue. So that's kind of been my hassle for this week, we'll say. But you can see, I'm trying to see if I can get you a better light in there. You can see that gap between the flex plate and the torque converter. It's 3/8 of an inch. So it's entirely too much to slide that. It'll do damage to the pump when we slide that torque converter that far out. So we have to work on a different flex plate for that. So that's going to be my problem at the moment, and we will get that taken care of. So next nightmare issue, you might want to say, I had was back here with the Camaro. So we decided to start getting some of the, the fuel tank put in so we could do some of the plumbing. So he bought this absolutely gorgeous stainless steel tank from Rick's. And you can see the fuel pump fits in from the top as well as the sending unit. And all the wiring for the fuel pump and everything is in the top of that tank. So when you bolt this tank in, that area is flush with the floor of the trunk. Now, should you have an issue with a leak or something of that nature, it becomes a problem because you're going to have to drain the tank and drop it all back out of there. So I'm going to go under this thing here and see if I can give you guys a little look of underneath here. But anyway, we went ahead and cut a hole up under here to access through the trunk and made a nice panel for it and had to get some rib nuts to fit it. But that, I'm sorry about the camera work, guys. This is kind of difficult by yourself. But what it did was it allows me to put that up, the tank up inside there, and have access to all that through the trunk. So in the future, if we have a leak, have a wiring issue, a sender unit issue, something of that nature, we can access it through the trunk floor. So it just makes things a whole lot simpler. And I know it's been a while since this car has been in the shop, so I'm going to take a minute here and show you the bottom. It has a 9-inch, there's a little 4-bar, triangulated 4-bar in it. Disc brakes, coilovers, really nice setup. So I'm going to give you guys a shot at seeing the bottom. And there's the cross member and the Speed Tech front suspension. Transmission, the headers are all in and installed. All that fancy stuff. So I'm going to give you the opportunity to see what we got going on under here. Ground clearance is going to be pretty good. If you look at the edge of the lift compared to, say, the bottom of the header, you know, the rack and the lower control arm, that's all the lowest point of the car. So he's probably got a good 5 inches of ground clearance. So there shouldn't be any issues with ground clearance. He's working on getting an exhaust system for it, and get that installed as well. So we are making progress. Like I said, it's been a little slow this week because it's me by myself, but making headway just the same. Did go ahead and pull out the wiring harness and got that all set up and ready. And my misfortune, they did not put any of the wiring harness directions in the box, so had to go look those up on Holly. Unfortunately, they're pretty good about that. But so we're gonna get after this, get that harness in. Did just get in the hardware a few minutes ago for the plate. Here is the access plate, the little bead rolling. Set that into the floor pan, the trunk, and that will allow us to get it from inside the trunk, which should be pretty neat. Now, if any of you guys are interested, this car is for sale. Whether it's completed or you purchase it as it is and you can complete it yourself, or I can complete it for you to your specs. But this car is actually being built to sell, but at any given point, he would sell it, you know, to move on to another project. So if anybody's interested, you contact me and I'll get you in touch with Brian, the owner. But real high-end build, nice car, spared no expense. This car is beautiful. So another thing we accomplished this week was the Shelby. We had a little repair to do here on the back around the taillights. So I made that panel on both sides and finished that off, all welded that in and got finished off the edge. Makes the seal fit better. So got that completed. And that's about it. It's been a crazy week, you know, and it's no fun working by yourself, believe it or not. But we are making progress. So stick with us. Come on back next weekend or next Friday, and we will show you where we're at. Until then, you guys have a good weekend. Enjoy yourself. Be good and be safe. And we'll see you Friday.